Are we on the right internet?
Yes, I just changed it. Let us know in the chat if you're seeing us, because we just got a weird message saying that it couldn't connect to the live stream.
Yeah, that was strange.
That was strange. Oh, yeah, we're going. It looks like it's going on mine, unless it's over.
Nope. We're on. We're doing it right. Okay. Well, we did it. We did the rock paper scissors.
We did. If you didn't see it, okay. Thanks, Peggy. Okay, Peggy sees us. So,
Okay.
anyways, this is episode 65 of Books We Never Read, and we're going to be discussing our first reading of The Mountain in the Sea by Ray
Nayler.
Nayler.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to make a different name for him, and I don't know why.
That's rude.
I know. I just thought of like a Michael Scott joke, but I'm not doing it. Okay, anyways. So, before we get started, please make sure that this is what you really intend to be watching. We talk about the covered portion of the book as if you have also already read that much. So, it's in the description box below how far we're talking about today. It's complicated.
It was complicated.
So anyways, if this is your first time joining us, please participate in the live chat. If you're here live, if you're catching a replay, please comment in the comment box on the replay, just so that we can see what you're thinking about the book. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you confused? Whatever. You share those details with us. Anyways, we are also on Goodreads. We're a Goodreads community at Books We Never Read. And the invite link for that is in the box below, as long as you're watching this video within about 30 days of us posting it. And we're also playlisted on YouTube Music as a podcast.
If you don't want to see our faces.
If you don't want to see our books behind us that might cause controversy.
We've been getting a lot of comments lately. That's cool. On old things.
Ah.
A lot of them are positive. That one was not.
Yeah. We've had like 2 negative comments ever.
That's fine.
So, anyways, here we go.
Mountain in the Sea.
Mountain in the Sea.
What do you think so far?
Okay, so what I think so far, number 1, I respect the octopi.
Oh, really? Yeah, sure.
I will not eat any octopus, any squid, anything. They're smart.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that we should be eating smart things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, if we think about it too hard, I don't want to eat any meat. But they're smart. They can open jars. They can solve problems.
Sure.
They can apparently take seashells and murder someone with it.
Yeah.
So, so I don't eat octopi. So I kind of went into this book scared, number 1, because they're awesome creatures, right? Mm-hmm. In the sense that they inspire awe. Like, they are crazy. Mm-hmm. Okay, so also I was painting the ceiling and walls of a room when I read through this. Mm-hmm. So my misery at the task might have projected onto the book.
Oh.
Maybe I don't like the book because I didn't like what I was doing while I was listening to it.
So I'm liking it. I am. I know that so far you aren't really a big fan, but it's exactly what I think I signed up for, right? Like, is it really thrillery yet? No, but it has a very Deception Point feel.
Yes.
Without the Deception Point sads, so far. The problem with Deception Point wasn't the beginning; it was the end.
Well, and like in the first 2 minutes of the book, I was like, "We're in Deception Point again."
Yes.
Like, it just felt
but that's the genre, right? Like, that's
the
point. So really, more than this doesn't really remind me of Deception Point in any way other than like the genre and the necessary feel to that.
Yeah.
But this reminds me a little bit more of The Sphere, which I think you've probably watched that with me before. And other like movies like that have to deal with like undersea, the ocean. Arrival is another movie that this reminds me a lot.
Which I loved Arrival.
Arrival was really good. And so is this like this is a pretty big change of pace narratively, I think, from the last book that we read, and then from like the highs and the action of like whatever the Fourth Wing sequel was, right? Like,
Yeah.
but it's a different change of pace, and it's meant to be. But I think this is also really doing a very good job of exploring topics that I think we like.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Now, content-wise, I've got questions. Like, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
Altantateg.
Yeah. I can't. The name
She
I
a
cannot
person?
pronounce. Yeah.
Why?
She's
Why
the
doesn't
security
she
person.
want to fix her interpreter machine?
Because it provides her like a barrier to where she doesn't like want to be close to humans, and she doesn't like really want to be understood, and that's her excuse.
Her name means golden flower.
Oh, really? In what language?
Mongolian.
Oh, very cool.
Interesting. What
Very
a
cool.
deadly golden flower she is.
Yeah. You know, have you ever met somebody who, or like, yeah, have you ever met somebody who's like, oh, I'm kind of deaf, but they're not, and they just say that.
So they don't have to acknowledge you when
Yeah.
when you talk to them.
Like that's a real thing, right? And like they're not like trying to fake a handicap. They're trying to not be interactive. And this is her version of I'm a little deaf in one ear, right? That's her version of it. She doesn't want to have to communicate with people. And I think part of it is because of her job. You know, she needs to be somewhat distant
Sure.
so that she can do what she has to do. You know, she doesn't see people as people necessarily. She sees them as objectives and as, you know, threats to the mission or whatever.
Okay.
You know.
So was I the only one who thought that the ship with the enslaved people was the ship she blew up at first?
Yeah, with Aiko. Did you listen to the audiobook?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you say his name? Aiko?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't remember.
I didn't. I read it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him Aiko until I'm corrected.
I don't remember. But did
I
you...
also was like, oh man, there he goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I misunderstood. Yeah. Okay.
You know, so I'm actually really enjoying that storyline because it's exploring something that is real and something that is sometimes like difficult to write into books in a way that is like just not ultra depressing, but as like a side story that I suppose will eventually tie in.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I knew this was going to be like an eco warrior book about the oceans and all that, and I hadn't really considered sort of like the human impact of some of these other things, you know. And like I'm not saying that I know that there's people locked up on ships, but like it seems highly likely, and there is slavery still in the world,
right,
in all kinds of like weird places like this.
Yeah.
Weird places as in like weird professions.
Right.
And you know, I think that's, you know, I think it's really interesting. And not only that, but what I'm really liking about this book is playing with what is a mind and what is a person and what is valued and how do you even know, and the whole concept that human labor is cheaper than the robot labor in this scenario because of the salt, because of the like the electricity involved, because of the water, and so they are valued less and protected less than the AI mind that is behind the door. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really enjoying kind of like playing around with that. At what point does the computer become more valuable than the human?
Yeah.
In like an economic sense.
Yeah. His story is real sad. You know how, like, he's realized that he's just not close enough to people and has no human connections, and this is possibly why he's ended up stuck in slavery and all that. And then like the person that he connected to, didn't that guy get?
No, so that was just some other guy that got his head blasted.
Okay, how did that happen on his boat?
That was so the Alaskan pirates. There were some Alaskan pirates who were coming to like rob the boat, and they have their guns, and so the Alaskan pirates are shooting, and a bullet comes through the wall.
I completely missed that.
And then the boat sunk. Like the AI sunk the pirates' boat, and then they just like sailed.
Gotcha.
Off.
Okay. And then they came across the dead ship, right?
No, at the end of our reading, they've come across a factory ship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's actually one of the things I really enjoy about this book so far is it doesn't explain things to you, right? Like it doesn't take time I like that. It doesn't take time to just sit down and be like, factory ships became prominent in 2047, right? Like it doesn't do that. It assumes that you are part of this world. It assumes that you know things because like it's not really that important,
Right.
you know.
But in my mind, I'm like, I guess this is real. I don't know.
So, well, I mean, like factory ships, as we don't know what they make necessarily, but factory ships, as far as like fish processing, that does exist.
Yeah.
And like processing whales and things like that. But this does something similar to Rosewater, where Rosewater would just be like, "Hey, by the way, this thing exists," and then just wouldn't tell you anymore. And it kind of makes the world, it populates the world with so much interesting stuff without taking you away from the story to have to sit down and explain it all. You know, like the whole thing about like the Republic of Tibet, and there's this autonomous trade zone in Vietnam, and like there's a couple other things like that where it just like mentions them, and as you go, you start exploring, but it doesn't stop and tell you everything,
right?
And maybe because the characters don't know,
Yeah.
I do want to tie in though. We were talking a second ago about Aiko and not remembering, or like having problems connecting with people. If you've ever seen the movie Gladiator, this is like a theme there as well, where once he becomes enslaved, he just has trouble because attaching to other people because his misery and their lives are misery, and like why no it won't be, and that's like a real problem. You see this in prison. People don't become attached to each other because they might disappear the next day, either because of release or transfer or whatever. But it's a place where you don't, when you're in situations like that, it is natural for some reason for us to stop caring about other people and only care about ourselves.
And we do see that big theme of loneliness and like the inability to attach. We see it with the enslaved man, Aiko. We see it with the girl that has the 1.5 who has like a date.
Yeah.
We see it with Dr. Ha.
Yeah.
So I mean that's clearly going to be a big part of this. Well, and it's talking about like how the next in order for the octopus or for cephalopods to be able to carry on traits throughout time, they have to have community and they have to have and so I think we're seeing this comparison or this contrast maybe where we have evolved and been able to do these things and we're slowing that down. That community and the togetherness and the communication and the octopi are speeding that up.
Right, and we see it again with the I'm forgetting his name now. I'm going to call him Venom, even though that's not right.
Evram?
Evram, yes, we see it with Evram because he is the only one of his kind. So he is alone. I don't know. But he doesn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And even when Ha like sits down and touches shoulders with him, he like pulls away, and then leans into it and is trying to train himself to be connected to people. And what does it mean to connect? Man, I have so many thoughts right now. I've got to come back to something because I'm gonna say this now. Something I was thinking about with this book, when they were talking about a lot of this book is about minds as like an insular thing, right? They are alone, but then they have to make these communities and they have to connect. And so a lot of this is about aloneness and community, all at the same time. And I was thinking about how, and then in thinking about the octopus language, and how would something that is totally different in form communicate, because we use so many metaphors because of the way we perceive time, because, like we say, could you give me a hand, for help? And we're referring to something physical on our bodies.
Can you give me a tentacle?
Yeah, right. But like, would they say that? Would they say something else? Like, would that mean anything to them? Anyway, but the point being is the way that language works matters in the way that we think about things. And then I started thinking about how we think about barriers. So like we tend to think of a door as something that separates, right? That door, there's inside and outside. And the door is the thing that separates. But isn't a door also a thing that connects,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it is the thing that connects the inside and the outside. And in thinking about like the self or whatever, right? We think of myself as the thing within my skin, right? But isn't the skin also the thing that connects us to other, like isn't my body the thing that separates me from your mind? Your mind inhabits your body, my mind inhabits my body. But our bodies are also the thing that connect those minds. That if the bodies didn't exist, the mind
Yeah.
would never, you know, communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of thinking about all that as we talk about language and we talk about mind, and sort of like the way that we think about these things. That's it. That was one of my thoughts. My other thought, points for me, is going back to
You don't get to assign your own points.
oh, come
Jason.
on. In Midnight Library, we talked a lot about, or I talked a lot about how we associate ourselves with things in the past and how that was causing the main character like suffering,
Mm-hmm.
because she wasn't these things anymore and she is this thing now. And we see that come up again with like what is, and what is a mind? What is the self? What are you? Um, when we talk about Ha when she was 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how she doesn't really feel like she isn't that person anymore. And she kind of like feels adrift because of it. And then we see the same thing with Aiko, where there's this abrupt break in his consciousness between who he was when he reaches the autonomous zone and is trying to get a job with Dianima or whatever, and then wakes up a slave,
Mm-hmm.
and he feels this dissociation with his past life. His self is split,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing he was in the past is literally not the thing he was now, and there's no transition. That was all.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. Okay, who is Chan in the book? Peggy says, why does Chan keep killing people who know about the octopus?
Is she the one with the hourglass uh, face?
The interviewer?
I mean, she does interviews, I guess. Yeah, but
She's interviewing the guy that worked there who
Yeah.
went to jail for poaching.
Yeah, but she's also the guy. She's also the person who hires the like guy in Russia to do hacking. We need to talk about that. She's also the one who hires Ha. She's also the one who. There was something at the very beginning of the
Okay,
book.
I missed the hacker thing.
The guy who like drinks the Turkish coffee every day.
Oh, yeah.
So he hacks. He so that was another kind of like interesting like theory of mine thing. He knows what it's like to be like a freight ship, and he knows what it's like.
Oh, is he the guy that's on the date? With the
Yes.
girl with the 1.5?
Yes, that's him.
Okay, I
Yes,
did
that's
not
him.
realize that. Golly.
Same guy.
Look, painting that spare bedroom really messed me up.
But so what's interesting about him is he keeps saying that the thing.
I'm sorry. Peggy said
Yeah.
the hacker had naughty with the 1.5 girl.
Yeah.
Peggy. Okay, sorry.
But I think that he is being employed to hack Evram, because he talks about how this mind that he is trying to get into is so much more complicated than anything he's ever done. That's what I think.
Shelby says she has deadly insects going around killing people, just calling them mosquitoes.
Yes.
Okay, so I remember like the guy floating in the water and the
Mhm.
buzz. At what point did we associate that with her? Did I miss something?
Well, so like it's not clear, but they do mention that there are like assassin mosquitoes, right?
Man.
They just like mention that in a previous chapter, and then they kind of hint at it that is
So he's
what
gonna
happens to him.
he gonna die.
Oh, he did die.
He did die
Yeah, he's drowning. Like he drowns.
while he was swimming
Yeah.
after his beer.
Yep. He gets stung by a mosquito, and he's like looking up at the sun, and then after a few minutes of drowning, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the wording was, but yeah, he's dead.
I missed all of that. The first guy died too. The guy that did jail time.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but that sounds probably correct.
Man, the people that spoke with all die. I'm calling them mosquitoes, not actual reference in the book. Though.
Right.
Yeah, but they like stung.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, I really missed that. I, I might need to recap. Oh no. I do have decent reading comprehension skills.
You don't have to convince
I
us.
just, for some reason, this book was just not speaking my language. No more painting. Yeah, I agree, Shelby. Mm. Peggy says I just need to start over, and maybe I should.
I mean, it's
It
it's
wouldn't
it's a
take that
short
long.
read.
Yeah, I might should, and maybe I'll be on board.
Yeah. One of the other things I've been telling everybody about this book because there's things in there that I think are really cool, and especially like about the world building. I'm just kind of enjoying that part as well. And my favorite thing so far is the auto monks. I love that concept. I think it's really interesting. Just these robotic monks.
Taking care of their little sea turtles.
Well, and Evram says they're not conscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
He would not consider them conscious, and so that's kind of interesting. Is where does Evram draw the line of what is conscious and what is not? And I imagine these robots that are that have like the minds of these ancient monks installed in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like what if that ancient monk made tea every morning? And so this auto monk makes tea every morning, but can't drink it. And then one day realizes, I don't like tea.
Mm-hmm.
This thing I am programmed to be liked tea. And then what does that mean? What are you? Right? And so like again at that point we're sort of playing around with the idea of what is a mind and what is a self.
Yeah.
You know.
I am very interested in like the AI conversation. There's one of my favorite episodes, and lots of people's like one of the famous episodes of Star Trek Next Generation is The Measure of a Man. It is about Data going through the trial of like, is he sentient, and what does it mean and all that. But like, I think we need to be really aware of how we treat AI, and I don't think it's going to be easy for us to tell when something has sentience and when it should have rights and that kind of thing. But we're creating life, and
yeah. Well, they have
be nice to your Google.
Yeah, sorry. They have a little conversation like that about how Evram passes the Turing test.
Yeah.
And how it doesn't mean that he's conscious. It means that he can pass.
Right.
Or it doesn't mean that he's human. He can pass as human. And so, like, realistically, at that point, it doesn't mean that anything can ever be proven as conscious, just that it can pass as such.
Right.
And then, is there a real difference there?
Right.
And I've said this on the show a lot, and I'll say it again, but like I think we are a lot less conscious than we think. I think consciousness happens to us very sporadically.
Well, I was about to say, could I pass the Turing test? I don't know if I could.
Like that's a robot. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. We just give ourselves the default rights because we're the ones who can think about them.
Yeah.
But we're going to be at a point where we're recognizing that thought and consciousness looks different across the span of life forms.
Yeah. Well, and I can't remember if it's the auto monks or if it's some other robotic form, but they talk about how they are protected from abuse in the same way. That basically they're at animal status, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like you can't go and abuse that thing because it can process, I guess, pain and fear and things like that. But if it can process pain and fear, it's because we have programmed it to do that, and that's kind of weird. Like. The whole concept that we want to make something that is as human as possible is strange to me because, like, we have plenty of those.
Yeah.
Can we make something different,
I don't know. And it also makes me wonder, like, could we, if we didn't program something to process pain and fear and whatever, but if we have created something that grows and learns and adapts, then is that just kind of the next step that they learn? Those can be learned behaviors, not programmed behaviors, and then does that mean that they are now the next thing?
There was a show I watched a while back, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. It's on Netflix. It was an anime, but it was about AI, and it was kind of exploring these ideas. And it wasn't really the villain, but sort of like the head scientist who was creating the bad stuff knew that the way that he was creating sentience was he was uploading like every possible personality to these things, and they had to like pick one, right? So like that there was this like element of choice in what this AI would be, but they would get lost in the infinity of options, and so he would introduce pain so that they had to escape it and just like had to pick one.
Mm.
And that's kind of like what I think about here, you know, like without pain, like can you even be sentient, you know, or something, I don't know. It's kind of the same concept as like Adam and Eve have to be given a choice between good and evil because otherwise they aren't people, you know, like do we really think that? Like, and if we do we have to give AI a choice between good and evil, whatever that means,
Mm-hmm.
for them to be like us, you know?
I don't know.
Is free will the thing that means sentience? And then, like, if we're saying that's that, then I'm like, are we really?
Well,
Are we really?
if we throw it back to Midnight Library, there is no free will.
Well, if we throw it back to just about anywhere.
Also, this popped in my head yesterday while I was finishing this reading. And I was like, wait a minute. Something that I read recently mentioned Silent Spring. But I think it was Midnight Library when she was on the boat. And there were books next to her table.
Mm-hmm.
And one was Silent Spring. And that was in Three Body.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
But then I was thinking it was this book that had mentioned it. And I was like, wait, I don't think we've seen anyone's nightstand in this book.
Yeah.
So.
Let's see.
They're talking about how Siri knows if
if
you're being mean to her.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it doesn't know. It can act as if it knows. It can detect bad words, right? Peggy says that a sociopath doesn't feel remorse. Autism or other disabilities restrict access to emotions and reactions, and they're still human. So where is human? Yeah, and like, I mean, I agree. You know, if you can't tell, yeah, or like a sociopath knows the difference between right and wrong, but they cannot feel the difference between right and wrong, right? You can say this is right, this is wrong. You can teach them that, and then they can approximate that behavior. You can get a sociopath to not do wrong things just by nature of having like corrected it, and and that person deciding like I'm just gonna do what I need to do. But like we all agree that they're still human, you know?
Right. Right.
I think we, especially in Western thought, like duality, and we like human, not human. We like conscious, not conscious.
We like division.
We like division.
Clear boundaries.
We like a positive and a negative.
And we see that in society having really complicated things, right? Like,
Sure.
Are we male or female?
Yeah, you're right.
Or are we, we have to label everything,
Yeah. But I think consciousness exists on a spectrum as well, and that doesn't mean that people are less conscious and therefore less human. It means that human encompasses a lot more states than just yes or no. And that was Ha talks about how they need to find out like a binary language, right? Because that's what we understand. We need something mathematical to be able to communicate with the octopi. And I agree that like that is the most efficient way to probably communicate with something that is totally alien in experience, but it's not efficient for them. It's efficient because of us.
Right.
Because that's how we operate.
Right.
Yeah.
So while I was reading and kind of learning about how the octopus is, starting to use tools, starting to create tools, that kind of thing. It really reminded me of 2001 Space Odyssey movie. You know, how you're seeing like the little chimps or whatever. Each moment they see I can't say that word.
Obelisk.
The obelisk. They grow in evolution, so then they're using their tool and they're like beating another monkey with the tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it reminded me of that. But how creepy. Just this image of an octopus walking.
Yeah.
How is his little strong enough to
way very much.
Make little feet.
Yeah, but they're also not really designed to support necessarily their own weight.
Their tentacles don't have like bone in it.
Muscle. Yeah.
But is muscle enough to support weight like that?
I don't know enough about octopi.
Ugh. Okay, so in Rosewater, I was haunted by the like blimp people or whatever. In this book, I'm haunted by this walking octopus.
Yeah. Yeah.
With his shell weapon.
Well, it was a shell scraper, right? Like, and then he used it as a weapon
to slice that dude up.
Yeah. What do you think the symbol means? What is he trying to communicate?
What's the symbol?
Oh, you were in the audiobook. Yeah. So the symbol is a half moon with like an arrow pointing down.
Oh, the book has pictures?
Yeah.
A half moon with an arrow pointing down?
Yeah, just like a moon. It's like a smiley face with a tiny little point on it. Have you ever seen like a like some like Islamic flags will have like the crescent moon, but it's on the bottom? I think like Tunisia may have one, and then like a little.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think like what would that.
So in the book they're saying like maybe he's pointing down, but what does down mean to an octopus?
Right.
In a world where that is 3D in a way that ours is not.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it means down. I'm not sure what it means, but maybe everybody.
Yeah. So I've lost chat on my laptop, so everyone do your best.
Yeah, they said octopi do walk. They saw it on PBS documentary.
Like on the ground.
They can definitely like shuffle on the ground. They can get out of pools and go other places.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, I don't know.
But like up, like using.
I don't know.
Using a couple of them. Ugh.
Well, they like, and we're talking about math, and like, how would an octopus count? Is it base 8? Because they have 8 tentacles,
Well, we use base all kinds of things, even though we've got 5 fingers or 10 fingers, 10 toes. Not everything's on the 10 scale.
Well, but it wasn't originally. 10 scale is more efficient.
Yeah, it is because I can use my fingers for that.
Yeah, but originally we were base 12,
which makes no sense.
You can use your knuckles for that.
Ugh.
That's how we did it.
Well, stupid.
You can get bigger numbers.
But I'm saying, like...
and there's more options for multiplication.
If we started at base 12, why would an octopus start at base 8?
Because we have, like, the concept of using knuckles is the same concept as using fingers. It gives...
well, they have little suckers. Maybe they'll use base 5 billion.
I don't know that octopi have the same number of suckers on each.
I'm sure there's a math behind it.
Probably
a little Fibonacci sequence that determines how many little suckers they've got on their tentacles.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so, a Children of Time situation. Kind of wish we could get this story from the octopus point of view.
That'd be interesting.
Just saying.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
What are you thinking about Aiko's Mind Palace?
I don't understand anybody like mind palaces are not a thing that I have ever met someone in real life doing because I'm not convinced it's real.
Okay, my mind palace is my house, okay? So I shoved a piece of paper with this information under the couch of my mind palace. You know what's going to happen?
You're going to lose it there. And
same thing that would happen in real life if I shoved a piece of paper under the couch.
Your robo-vacuum's going to pick it up.
Rosie the robo-vacuum is just going to suck that sucker up and... Yeah, we've lost the phone number now.
It's, I understand memory tricks. Like, I get that. But this particular thing shows up in books a lot because it's cool, but it seems like a lot of extra steps, right? Like,
I wonder if there's anything, has anyone like read anything or watched anything about making mind palaces? I wonder if it...
I'm sure it works for a very specific set of people, right? For some reason.
The show Sherlock.
Yeah.
Sherlock makes a mind palace.
I think that people think it makes you sound smart. Man, I don't know.
Look, losing crap in the cracks of the couch in the mind palace is just the same as losing stuff in the crack of the couch in the real house.
Yeah, I don't know.
And like, not only is he having to remember the things he's hiding in his mind palace, but he's having to remember like what year this mind palace was, and who is the emperor, and who is this monk, and who is this? Where is this garden, and which statue is he looking at?
Yeah.
You're having to remember the things, to remember the things, to remember the things. Just remember the thing.
Yeah.
It's too much.
It's too much. It seems like a lot of extra effort.
But I do like it when we leave his terrible, dreary world and go into the peaceful sanctuary of the mind palace. Yeah. That is the use of a mind palace.
Sure.
To escape into a beautiful place. not to remember the name of someone and who their spouse is.
Or like, so imagine on your phone trying to save a phone number, right? That's like however many bits of data. And then what if I was like, so that we don't lose this phone number, I'm going to paint a picture of this phone number, which now takes like 700, like megabytes or something. You know what I mean? Like,
same thing in your brain.
Yeah.
Yep. You could have just remembered the phone number.
Yeah. Shelby says maybe instead of a mind palace, a mind couch, and it just holds everything.
Some mind dungarees with all the little pockets.
That's pretty funny.
You can do your mind car. You've got the like dash place where you can put stuff in the dash, and you've got the like secret compartment over here, and you've got some cup holders.
Yeah. I hope that Aiko makes it out. I'm interested to see how his story ties back in, because it really isn't clear yet how it does.
Okay, so who is Dynamo?
Dynamo is the company that created Evrim. They're like an AI company, and whenever they heard that there was a sea monster
on this haunted island,
they were like, that sounds intelligent. So they bought out the island, and now they're trying to study it to further their understanding of other minds.
Okay. So they're a company that makes AI.
Mm-hmm.
They are not allowed to make another Evrim. Yeah. Evrim is illegal now, which is a terrible word to use for a life form. How can a person be illegal? So why would they be interested in killing people who have seen what's on the island?
I don't know. Like maybe just to hide what they're doing. I don't know. It wasn't. I think it was clear to me that I didn't know the woman's name, but with the hourglass. But I think I did know that she worked for Dynamo. But like, what if like Evrim's gone rogue? What if somehow they're trying to like reel him back in or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
You okay?
I'm okay.
Shoot.
I don't know.
Evrim seems so nice.
Yeah. And I only say that because of their conversation with a hacker, right? They're trying to hack something. What is it?
Who hired the hacker?
The woman in the hourglass, which the chat is calling Dr. Chan, and I did not know that was her name.
Yeah, I didn't know she had a name either. Dr. Chan, who works for Dynamo, General Dynamics, hired a hacker.
Mm-hmm. But they're also like knocking off all the people who have seen the octopus.
And the hacker went on the date with 1.5 girl.
Yeah. I don't think she's like important as a character.
I think it just showed the world a little bit.
Yeah, it was there for him to like have this conversation about hacking and to talk about how he basically learned analog, and so he thinks about things differently. I think it also explores this concept of a 0.5, which is interesting.
What's it like to be a bat?
Yeah, what's it like to be a bat? Pretty much that chapter was there to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's always a good exercise to think, what's it like to be,
yeah,
whatever. It's always a good exercise to put yourself in someone else's shoes, see the world from a different view.
So that's like an interesting thing that I experience a lot. That we draw these divisions on who can understand what it's like to be you, like totally arbitrarily. And so this happens to me a lot, where somebody who is in prison will be like, well, you don't know what it's like to be me. No one knows what it's like to be you. 0 people know what it's like to be you. So yes, you're correct. However, why can you say like, this guy knows, this guy knows, this guy knows, this guy knows, not that guy, this guy, not that guy? Like, that's so bizarre that we draw these like little divisions. And usually in that conversation, it's from like, well, you don't know what it's like to be me, so you can't help me. People who are not you are exactly the kind of people that you want to help you. Because, and the way I pitch it is like, if and that's what's interesting about other minds, right? Like in other ways of thinking. Like, what can we learn? That's why they're trying to find the
If I'm drowning, if you're also drowning, you can't help me.
Correct, yes. But that's why they want the octopus, right? Is to find other ways of thinking that might unlock new abilities and new things that we can do. Because if I stuck you in a room with 100 clones of yourself, you know,
my worst nightmare. You know, it'd be loud in there.
I'm going in. But seriously, and if I said, here's a problem that you can't solve. I'm gonna stick you in a room with 100 clones of yourself that I made like right now. They haven't had any different experiences.
Yeah.
You know what you're gonna do? Nothing. You're gonna find nothing.
Have the same problem.
Yes. You can only learn from people who are different from you, and so like it's just this weird thing that we do.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, and you've mentioned this before, like, and I don't really remember what the context was, but you know, we have more in common than we don't have, and we let the
don'ts.
The differences be the outstanding huge thing between us.
Yeah. Well,
for good or for bad, you know.
We and that's a good point, right? And that could apply to the octopus as well. But we'll look at people and we'll say you're from a different socioeconomic class and you're a different color and you come from a different part of the world. Therefore, you're different from me. But that person had a childhood. That person will die. That person has a family. That person has to eat. That person has to sleep.
And according to this book, that person is lonely.
Sure, they have all the same emotions you do. There's a massive amount of information and similar experiences between people, but we focus on what divides us. And there's good reason for that. Because the thing that divides us is the key. Understanding the things that divide us is the thing that keeps us alive and safe from each other. You know? Because we don't just like walk up to somebody and be like, hey, you're me. And then they stab you in the face and like take all your stuff, right? But like, you know, and we're looking at these octopuses and we're talking about all these different things. You know, they have 8 arms and they live underwater and they have all these things. But if they have a family and they have to eat and they feel afraid, it's the things that we have in common that perhaps are the way that we can draw mutual understanding.
This book also reminded me of the show that I watched as a kid with my dad, and I'm pretty sure it was called Sequest. Does anybody know what that is? They could talk with the dolphins, and it was like in the future, and I don't know, but they could talk with dolphins. Anyone know what that is?
Nope, not familiar. But dolphins are also intelligent, or can approximate intelligence. Yeah. Peggy is asking, do you think marriage would be better with only half of your mate if your mate had no needs? That's me. I'm that guy. It's easy. I don't know. I mean, like, it seems that's an interesting question, but it seems like a weird part of the book, but it's really not. There are already apps and things that you can text that are just. I think it stunts people as far as interactions in the real world because you have to navigate other people's needs, and and it's like having a yes man, and nobody wants that, you know. Early on, when like Nicole and I got together, like one of my, you know, I would tell her like one of my favorite things is when you're like, hey, I'm going to do something, and like, I'll see you later, right? Like for someone to have independence, you know, because nobody needs like a totally dependent person, and that's not really what this is because this 0.5 is not dependent.
Right.
But it is not independent either.
Right. So it creates a very comfortable relationship where you do not have to work. You don't have to learn. You don't have to grow. You can just become squishy, lazy, relaxed isn't the word I'm thinking of, but like I think that's bad for your brain.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not learning how to make connections with other people. You can become complacent with this half a connection that fulfills the base comfort need, but does not fulfill any intellectual or like spiritual need. You know what I mean? Because you're not working towards it. It's not an equal partnership.
Yeah. In Isaac Asimov's iRobot series, I can't remember if that's really what it's called or not, but after iRobot, there's this whole like series of intelligent robots where like he's a detective and he goes around and does stuff. I've got it up here somewhere. What's that called? I'll find it later. It doesn't matter. But one of the stories is where they go to this planet. Yeah, that's iRobot. No, it's Foundation. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. And they
Get my dad in the chat.
they're investigating a murder that happens on a planet where nobody ever sees each other except to mate. And they have and like we see that now, right? Where like with the more technology we have, the less like true human interaction that we have. And so like you can have your groceries brought to your house. And when you can have your groceries brought to your house and you can only talk to people on the internet and when you can only talk to people in the chat rooms that you want to have conversations with so you don't have to see opposing points of views, and then you run into an actual human being that has neuroses and all these other problems that we all have, you're like, what am I supposed to do with you? Even though you are also that thing. And so that was kind of like the point, was that technology on this planet had gotten to the point where nobody has to ever see each other. And so like, how did this murder happen?
Right.
And that's kind of like what I feel like is happening in this situation. I don't have to love a human being. I don't have to interact with a human being and all their complications.
It is ultimate control.
Yeah.
For the people to soften themselves. It's what an easy society to rule.
Yeah.
Because everyone's just in their house with their 1.5s or whatever. Just chilling.
Yeah.
Content. But like weak. Squishy.
Yeah. And not only so now I'm thinking about like Blade Runner 2047. They the main character, the android, has basically a 0.5. It's Anna Diarma or whatever her name is, and she is his like AI thing. And at some point he goes somewhere and somebody else has one, but she doesn't know who he is because it's like that guy's. And so like I think that's interesting, and things like that are already starting to happen, but it's just like you buy this thing and that's what you get. And I think what we're talking about in this book is even more dangerous because she answered like a bunch of questions and they custom made it perfectly to her. I'm already scared of like all the data that's being collected on me. Not because like I think anybody's like really doing anything nefarious, but like the ads that are being perfectly targeted for me, the way that, especially with AI, we can just take all this data and stick it into something that will get you hooked. And that's kind of concerning. And that's what we're talking about here,
Yeah.
There was some other book we read where they're like, if you have enough data, you can basically predict anything. And like, that's real.
Yeah.
With enough data, you can know the future.
Catch up on the chat real quick. No,
Peggy says, Jason just described my weekends. Yeah, it appears that the 0.5s are not touchable. They are like a laser show, basically, because they talk about how he can see through the 0.5 and see the
a little bit, yeah. And I do want to be like honest about it. I would be the kind of person who would love to have a little 0.5 friend. I would have so much fun with my little 0.5 friend. I mean, like I'd be fine, it'd be fun.
Yeah.
My little, let me talk to myself, but have like something else here so it doesn't look like I'm talking to myself, right?
I mean, and like
I had a Tamagotchi in the 8th grade. Loved it. Had a fur. Fake friends. I've had fake friends my whole life. Loved it.
And so part of me says, like, I think this human ability. Mostly, I'm concerned about the concept of 0.5s from like from a survival perspective, because what happens when everything goes down and there's an alien invasion and now we have to work with each other, and nobody's worked with another person in 1,000 years, and we've like lost the ability to do so.
For the first time you say, okay, here's my plan, and someone else says, that's a terrible idea, and you're just like falling apart because you don't know how to like negotiate or compromise or problem solve.
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing from an emotional perspective, because I think most things are bad things from an emotional perspective, right? I think anything can stunt you, and why is this one special, right?
Yeah.
Like, is this really worse than getting in a relationship with an abusive person? Because lots of people choose to do that, and yeah, so from like an emotional perspective, or from a survival perspective, I'm concerned about it. But how many people were there in like the 1800s who heard about the telegraph and they're like, we shouldn't be able to communicate that easily. This is bad. And like, we're fine.
Right.
And is this just me,
being
like an elder millennial or whatever, thinking this is going to be the thing that gets us and we're going to be fine.
Yeah. there is some neat, like this is a neat vision of the future. Mm-hmm. Some neat stuff going on.
You know, the whole concept, like Russia's gone and there's this Ural Commonwealth now, and there's this autonomous trade zone or whatever. This future seems much more corporate, which I do think is like a danger, and that's something that we are heading towards. They had Davos this week, which is, I'm not saying that those people are necessarily nefarious, but sticking all of the elite of all like the big companies like in a spot together, like that's, whether they intend to or not, there are alliances made, you know. And we are rapidly approaching the point where we need to rethink how corporations work, you know, just like we did in like the 1880s and 1890s when we broke up railroads and steel and oil and things like that. We're rapidly approaching a point where, you know, Elon Musk has too much power, and there are other companies that have too much power over. And like I get it, like he did it all fair. I'm on board.
Right.
But should any one person have that kind of say so over the human future, or like talking about regulating AI and things, like what do we as a people want if we still and this almost seems like a dystopian sort of thing where like the future is complicated and corporate.
Let's get caught up on the chat.
Yeah, sorry. I was confused why someone set themselves on fire because a robot feels. That's confusing to me. Why care that much? Japan is freaking out over a few people bringing it on because there aren't enough. Over a few people bringing it on because there aren't enough. But I mean, like, we have people that do that now. That like light themselves on fire and protest and things. And I agree. I don't particularly understand that one. That seems terrifying. Depending on how well I slept, I'm either an idealist or very practical. So some days I'm like, yeah, I get it, and some days I'm like, no. Yeah. But, yeah. I mean, like, but also like, part of me thinks like, who cares? You know, like, so what if it's like us? And then the other part of me thinks, well, what if it's the thing that brings about our destruction? But something is going to bring about our destruction. And if anything, if this thing could bring about our destruction, it would also bring about our legacy. It would be the thing of us, the part of us that would endure.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, so Peggy says that there aren't enough resources for the people on the planet. You know, I mean, there's a lot of poverty here. You know, we haven't really seen like a seriously wealthy person, I guess, except for the lady with the 0.5. But
yeah, there's a lot to process and unpack.
I'm really enjoying it.
I'm glad this was a short book, and we weren't sure at first whether to split it into 2 weeks or 3. I'm glad we split it into 3.
Yeah, me too. So.
You got anything else?
I don't know. We've almost hit an hour. This has been a long one for us.
Wow. And my only note was Altansateg means golden flower and loneliness.
I also only made one note, but I came ready. Theory of mind and understanding and like AI and things like that. This is where I like to to work. So I appreciate everybody reading with us and playing along today. And the chat was great. I mean,
yeah, the chat was popping off today.
Yeah.
Y'all always got lots to say.
Yeah, if you think of anything else, feel free to put it in the comments, and I'd like to hear of anything that we haven't thought of for this particular reading. But I also need to go start reading. So
yeah,
and Nicole has to reread. Maybe. I would love to see a movie of this.
Yeah,
I would love to.
We always say that.
Yeah.
And then anytime we read something that has a video version of it, we're like, yeah, let's read it or watch it. And then we start watching it and then we never finish.
Yeah, you're right.
What has that happened with?
I don't want to talk about it. All right. Well,
watching TV is hard.
Thank you all for joining us. You can come back and talk to us next week for week 2 of this. We are going to need to take a week off or two in February.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get all that sorted out soon. And we need to announce our next book next week as well. It's already that time. So.
I think I already know what it's going to be.
This one gets to be Nicole's pick. So you'll have to tell me. All right, well, we'll see you guys next time.
You can find out with everyone else.
Dang.
Happy reading.
Bye.